is your name and what is your profession?
My name is Stephen Funke. I'm the director of big screens for the University of Alabama Athletic Department.
All right, on a typical day, what is that you do?
On a typical day, we get ready for live events, sponsorships, those kind of things. Depending on what we have going on that week, we might have basketball, we might have volleyball, we might have football. My job is to make sure that our sponsors are taken care of, the ones that are sold through our rights group, as well as making sure the fans are entertained, whether it be intro videos or headshots or get loud prompts or whatever may have you, is to entertain the fans on top of the actual event itself.
All right, and what training or education is required for this type of work?
Lots of training. I'm not so sure on education. I actually got my undergrad in finance, and I got my master's in education, which have nothing to do with video. But I kind of used grad school to stay in school longer so I could work for the group I was working for when I was at Texas A&M University.
What personal qualities or abilities are important for being successful at this job?
I think one thing is you have to be fluid. Not every day is the same, not every week is the same, not every month is the same. So I think you really can't be too big on doing things in a certain way all the time, because things are so fluid here that you always have to be on the move and be prepared for something changing, whether it be last second or last minute.
And what part of the job do you find most satisfying?
Most satisfying part of my job, I guess, is probably when the crowd reacts to something we've done on the board, whether it be a replay of something or something we've done we get an applause for, whether it be a feature or something that gets people excited. Anything like that is probably the most rewarding. Also teaching young students, how to do things that we know how to do, and kind of getting them involved and seeing them blossom is also very rewarding.
And what is the most challenging part of the job?
Most challenging part of the job, I would say, is the amount of hours you put into it. You work 8 to 5 and then some, for 5 days a week. Plus you have all the events, so you might work 8 to 5 all the way through, and then you might have an event at like 7 o'clock. So you work from 8 in the morning to when that event's over, which might be 10 o'clock. It might happen 3 days a week, and then it might happen on a Saturday or a Sunday. So I think the most challenging is balancing your time between, doing your everyday life chores and doing this job.
How did you get your job?
I started as a student working at Texas A&M University at 12th Man Productions. I was always really interested in sports. I knew I wasn't fast enough or tall enough or strong enough to play any of them. So the easiest thing for me was to get involved in some other way, and I found videos to be something I enjoyed doing. So I started working as a student, and I did that for about 3 years. Got hired on full-time when I graduated. Stayed in grad school, and still worked full-time, and then from there I've been to 3 other schools besides here.
And what opportunities for advancement are there in this field?
There's plenty of opportunities. This field is really, really growing as far as there's not too many big screen jobs because it's kind of a new thing, but even at small schools, these are showing up. The screens are more affordable. It's easy to get involved a little bit more now, even at the smaller schools. So I think that would be a way to get involved. Was that the question? I can't remember. I lost my train of thought.
It was, what options for advancement are there?
Oh, you're right, yeah. Let me start off with that.
All right.
Take 2. Opportunities for advancement, I think, are a lot of these jobs are opening up around the country, so it leads to advancement for an AD position. Because these are all new, the sky's the limit. There's not been a limit put on this position at all because it's a fairly new working environment, employment. This hasn't been around for the last 20 years. I'd say these kind of jobs have been opening up the last 10 to 15 years. So the amount of time you put into it, you understand the business, the insides and outs of the marketing side of it, and the selling part of things, as well as the fan standpoint of things. It can lead to higher levels in upper management within the college, like an associate AD or an assistant AD.
What entry-level jobs are best for learning as much as possible?
Best entry-level jobs, I would have to say, probably internships. They're probably the most difficult jobs, but they're also the most important jobs for any kind of production group. just because of the number of hours you put in and the kind of jobs you do. You may do everything from dubbing tapes to doing a Photoshop file to learning some After Effects. It gets yourself some hands-on every part of the process. You don't want to be a one-man band and just learn how to do one thing. If you're an intern, you're pretty much told to do everything just because there's so many varieties to this job, whether it be the sponsorship side of it, to making a video, to making graphics, to making animations. There's so many different levels you can get involved with it. It's best to probably just be an intern, start out somewhere and work your way up.
What are the salary ranges for various levels of this field?
It ranges. I'd say when I first started doing this, when I was first when I was first hired on full time, I was making $20,000 a year. Very minimal. I was barely making it by, and now I have friends that have been doing this for a while now that are in the 100,000 area. So it's a good variety. There's all kinds of ranges in between, but.
How do you see jobs in this field changing in the future?
I see this is a growing job field. Every stadium now in the country wants a video board. Not only can you sell sponsorships to it, but you can also be entertaining for the fans. Another reason for a fan to buy a ticket would be not only to watch the game, but also to enjoy whatever's going on the screen, whether it be a dance cam or a fist pump cam or a kiss cam or any kind of engagement with the crowd. I mean, you got all things from text to screen now. People can text their pictures to the video screens. They can play PS3 or Xbox with the screen. You can do all kinds of things yet. So not only is the sporting event becoming important, but also the video screens to make the atmosphere what it needs to be and for people to continue to purchase tickets. All right.
What advice would you give a person entering this field?
My advice would be to put as many hours as you possibly can if you're really interested into this job. It's one thing to learn it as far as learning the ins and outs and how things work, but it's another thing to actually spend the time and learn the craft. I think the difference between any good editor or someone that's good with Photoshop or animation or graphics is the amount of time they put into it. I was in a position where I had a full-time job right out of college originally, and I quit that full-time job and went completely on loan through my master's degree just so I could have more time to spend on learning this craft, because I knew if I continued to work full-time at another job and just did this stuff on the side, I would never be good enough to do this for a career. So I decided at that point that I needed to quit my job and go get my master's degree and just go completely on loans to pay everything else off, meaning apartment, food, all that kind of good stuff. And I was an intern for about 2 years, just living off loans, and it gave me the opportunity to put in 60 hours a week trying to do different things and learn different things. And I think that would be my best advice for someone trying to get in this business, is try and get as involved as possible.
Which professional journals or organizations would help me learn more about this field?
Professional journals, I mean, there's several magazines out there devoted to video. I mean, you got everything from broadcast engineering to some of the studio magazines you see out in Hollywood. There's plenty and plenty there's always equipment coming out every day that's new. The field's constantly changing from a technology standpoint. HD's becoming much cheaper. Anything out there that is done in a magazine, I think, would be helpful, or even a journal, just to learn from that.
And if you could do things all over again, would you choose the same path for yourself, and why? And what would you change yourself?
Looking back on it, it took me a while to get where I am, but I wouldn't change it. I think I learned a lot about business and dealing with people just from my other jobs, and then finally when I did that for a while and realized that's not what I wanted to do and got involved in this, it gave me a better perspective of what it's like on the other side of the hill, per se. You think doing sports all the time. I got friends that are doing sports all the time, and they just are jaded about it. They're like, I got to work another live event. Well, if you haven't worked 8 to 5 in a cubicle, Monday through Friday, you don't understand how much fun it is to be involved with sports, or even videos for that matter. And I think in the long run that helped me out a lot, because I never look at this job as jaded. I don't sit there and go, man, I wish I could just work 8 to 5 and go home at 5 o'clock every day, because You know, a lot of people go around and say that, but I look at it from the other way. Is I've done the 8 to 5 job, and it's boring. It's the same thing every day. This job is challenging. There's always problems you have to solve. It's always growing. It's always something new. So I probably wouldn't change anything. But I think the path that I took was the right one that I took.
And me trying to get into this field, can you think of any similar careers I might want to research?
Similar careers. To big screen specifically, or just video?
Just the overall media production industry.
Well, there's always tons of video production out there. I mean, videos become so cheap now that, you know, anyone can make a YouTube video. Anyone can do anything on the internet, or you can cell phones have video on it now. I mean, I'd say research any career that involves videos. I mean, it can be anything. You know, a lot of friends that I went to school with do educational videos just because the online distance learning classes are so huge now that they make distance learning videos and they put those online. And it's not the most fun for them, but it's another skill level that they've learned just because of the amount of time they've had to put in to make videos to put online and all that kind of stuff. So I would say any kind of job that's video related would be helpful to anyone trying to get in this career.
And are there any experiences or qualifications I should emphasize in my resume?
Well, definitely I think working here is a big plus. Anytime you go to any job interview and you say you worked at the University of Alabama, everyone knows Roll Tide, University of Alabama, that kind of stuff. You can carry that on to any job you ever go throughout your career, because it's not like if you work in a production company and you worked at Studio 42, and people might be like, I don't know what that is, but if you say, you know, I work video production for, you know, Crimson Tide Productions at the University of Alabama, no one's going to sit and say, I've never heard of the University of Alabama. So I definitely emphasize, you know, your current working environment as far as working at the University of Alabama, because it's something that everyone knows of, everyone's aware of. You know, it's I guess the second most trademarked mark in America right now, so it's pretty big time if you can put that on your resume.
Perfect.
That good?
Yep.
Good.
That's a wrap.